expecting it today, the ruling Central Committee of the ruling ZANU-PF party here in Zimbabwe has sacked Robert Mugabe as party leader. After 37 years as leader of ZANU-PF, 37 years as president, he's been fired by his own party's Central Committee as leader of that party. Now, there were jubilant scenes, actually, at the Central Committee meeting. As that was announced, people were dancing. One member of the Central Committee said, "We want a new president. Mugabe can go and farm if he wants, but he's no longer leader of this party." What it does not mean is that he is technically no longer president. He is still technically president. He's no longer party leader, but if they want to get rid of him as president of this country, either they have to persuade him to step down of his own free will, or perhaps they will begin impeachment proceedings in the parliament down there behind me in Harare. There are talks underway at the moment with Mr. Mugabe and the military high command here, who are still trying to persuade him to resign.
And how is the linkage of Mr. Mnangagwa, the ousted vice president, if he is made leader of ZANU-PF, what does that mean for his position as potential president in the interim?
Yeah, he's been made party leader. He's the unanimous choice. He's the choice that the military wanted all along after this military takeover. He was the man that they favoured. He had been ousted, don't forget, as vice president by Grace Mugabe, who's very, very unpopular here. President Mugabe's wife, 41 years his junior. So he is now the favourite, if you like, to become the new president of this country. If that can be engineered, perhaps in some sort of transitional government. That's what some people here are hoping for, with him at the head of that new transitional government, but perhaps members of the opposition, rather fragmented, fractured opposition at the moment, but perhaps some of those opposition leaders within the new government as well. People like Morgan Tsvangirai, the leader of the MDC. But all of that is still to be decided, because although ZANU-PF have sacked him as their leader, as I say, he is still technically president of this country until he quits or he's removed. And the army have made it clear they don't want to remove him by force. Of course, they could do that, but they want this to look like a constitutional procedure. They don't want this to look like an old-fashioned coup d'etat in Africa. So that means that they want, if they have to, Parliament to impeach him.
And Ben, just to let you know, Reuters are reporting that a party source has said that Grace Mugabe has been expelled from the ruling party. She has obviously been a very toxic force in recent days.
Yeah, and she's been the catalyst for this whole crisis, really. And it was fully expected that the ruling Central Committee of ZANU-PF would kick her out of the party as well and strip of her role as the head of the Women's League. The catalyst of this crisis, because Robert Mugabe, it seemed, was trying to pass on power to her. She's, as I said, 41 years his junior, but she's been criticised hugely within this country and around the world for her lifestyle, very extravagant, known as Gucci Grace by some, and people in this country, the military, ZANU-PF, the people, just not prepared to stomach her as the new president of this country, thinking, that she could just automatically take over from her husband. They weren't prepared to put up with that. She was manoeuvring for that to happen. She ousted her rival, Emerson Mnangagwa, as I was saying. So all of that has been reversed, and she, alongside her husband, both stripped of their ZANU-PF party titles, and really huge developments here after the show of people power that we saw on the streets here yesterday in Harare, when tens of thousands came out to call for Robert Mugabe's resignation. The day after that, we've had the ruling party kicking him out.
And Ben, can you just give us a flavour? Is it quiet on the streets? I mean, it looks pretty calm behind you, but it's a Sunday afternoon. Are people just really wanting to see what those in a position of power are doing?
Yeah, there is a sense of calm, really, but also a sense of joy. Talking to the people who took part in the demonstrations yesterday, just full of hope and a real sense that this was not so much revolution, but a time of momentous change. They'd just want Zimbabwe to move on. They've had 37 years of this despotic rule, really, with political repression under Mugabe, economic mismanagement on a huge scale. You've had 90% unemployment at the moment. You've had at one stage inflation hitting many billions of percent, hyperinflation. Lives of people here have been almost unbearable. They want to move on. They want new leadership. They want real change. They just don't want another strongman. Now, Emerson Mnangagwa was a strongman under the Mugabe regime. He was accused of human rights abuses. He's not everybody's first choice as a great leader of human rights and democracy. But people here are hoping that perhaps he could be part of a transitional government that does start to change things and that really gets investment flowing back into this country, becomes more acceptable to the rest of the world in terms of human rights, maybe gets back into the Commonwealth. All those things that could bring about a new era for Zimbabwe.
Just to remind people who might be just joining us, Ben, we've heard that the ruling party, ZANU-PF, has voted to dismiss President Mugabe as its leader, but he is still president, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think, in a way, if he doesn't go voluntarily, if he doesn't, in these talks today with the military high command, if he doesn't accept that he has to go and resign, there's a two-part process, and what we've just seen is the first part of that two-part process, getting rid of him as party leader. Now they have to get rid of him as president, and really only Parliament can do that. So there's an expectation that Parliament would meet maybe on Tuesday, sometime next week anyway, and begin impeachment proceedings against him. Those could be on the basis of him willfully carrying out misconduct in office or being, in the view of Parliament, simply unfit to carry on office as president. There are a number of grounds on which he could be, under the Constitution, impeached. So that seems quite a likely way forward for those who want to get rid of him. Because if he doesn't resign, and his family have said, his nephew has said he won't resign, because he sees all of this, the military takeover here, he sees that as illegitimate and unlawful, and he won't be any part of it. And his nephew was saying he's ready to die for what he believes is right.